Quick editor's note, part 2 of the Scoreboard show will typically run on Saturday. It's running on Sunday this week because it was my birthday and my wonderful wife took up my time on Saturday. So thank you for the nice birthday, Susie. And sorry we're late. It's going to happen sometimes. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report, high school football fans, for part 2 of our Central Indiana High School Football Week 7 Scoreboard show. I am joined by Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader, and Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network. Michelle had Tipton's 49-7 win over Lafayette Central Catholic, and Grant and Kevin Helfrich called Mrs. Sinawaw's 48-0 win over Elwood. And we are going to talk a lot about the CIC tonight, Grant. But first I want to start with Tipton. And Michelle interviewed Coach Tolle after the game. Let's hear from him right now.
I thought your secondary did a fantastic job. Open field tackling, breaking down, coverage. Kind of set the tone with pick six.
Really did. I thought that's all Coach Frawley and Coach Pierce. Coach Pierce is their defensive back coach, and Coach Frawley is their defensive coordinator. I thought they had a phenomenal game plan, and then our kids really executed. I was very, very impressed with our tackling. I thought Zay Mahaney may have played his best game, especially defensively tonight. We put him on their leading receiver, and he did a phenomenal job. I see he had 8 solos tonight. I thought Zach Emberton played his best ball game of his career. Thought he's really come on. I thought Quinn and Dakota Garmon played good safety, and I thought Parker Capshaw came in and really tackled well, was really physical, and was really happy to see that. So, yes, I thought our secondary kind of set the tone and allowed us to be really aggressive in our front and put pressure on their freshman quarterback, and that was kind of the defensive game plan.
And because of that led in the way the defense was able to do and stop them. Your offense got a lot of nice short fields.
Got a lot of short fields, and early we took advantage of that. I was really disappointed there at the end of the second quarter. We had a couple opportunities to punch a couple in, and we didn't do so. So that's going to get us beat at some point. We've just got to keep working at it, and I know that really bothers Coach Shear, and we work on it every week, and we're going to find the ticket here, and when we can start really being good in the red zone, we might be a difficult outcome tournament time. How
important was this win coming off the 3-game road trip like you had, and knowing that you have a trip to Heights next week? And
I think it was a huge win. We've played. We were 1-3 in our last 4 games, and I told the kids, I said, okay, we're 1-3. We've lost to 3 really good football teams, but we're still 1-3, and it doesn't feel good. And I think tonight was just a really good confidence builder, and it's just one of the, you sleep better at night. You feel good about yourself. It's just we're going to feel a lot better about ourselves, and know that we've got to play a really good Hamilton Heights team. Their record doesn't show it, but they've played one of the toughest schedules in 3A, and but it is the hammer game, so I guarantee our kids will be very locked in this week, and we'll go down there with a mission in mind. We'll have to play really well. But
the Kites' defense has been pretty good this year. I think their offense has been inconsistent.
It's I think the Hoosier Conference is pretty darn good this year. With Western and Twin Lakes and Hamilton Heights and Logansport, and you always have West Lafayette. And, I mean, it's so some of those games are hard to read, but they've played a really tough schedule. I think they beat Logansport last week, so I kind of thought that Logansport might be the best team in the entire league, but they beat them last week. So we'll certainly have our hands full, but also have our team's attention next week too.
Great night for your seniors, because I thought your seniors had a nice hand, did well, and played a good role in this win tonight.
That's what's supposed to happen. It's kind of their night, and we said in the locker room that we honor your parents before the game. So the big thing is why don't you not only play for yourself, but see how proud you can make your parents tonight. I mean, that's because they're the reason you're here, and I also told them I said this is the last guaranteed game they have on this field. The
true.
next two are on the road, and you don't have any idea what's going to happen in the sectional draw. So we're not guaranteed of another home game. So good for them. That's from a coaching perspective. That's the way senior night's supposed to happen, right?
Exactly.
Your senior group's supposed to step up to the plate and play a really, really good ball game.
All right, Michelle. A nice performance by the Blue Devils. Got off to a really good start.
They did. They got off to a great start. Dakota Garmon picked off Lafayette Central Catholic's freshman quarterback and returned it 48 yards for a touchdown. And Tipton just started rolling. Second time, Lafayette Central, after the ensuing kickoff, the defense forced a punt, and the ball sailed over the punter's head or through his hands, and he had to jump through his hands. He picked it up. He couldn't get it. He couldn't get the punt away. He got tackled. Tipton turned it into another touchdown. Then Tipton again stopped Central Catholic on fourth down, and this time the snapper was so worried about snapping it high, it was like the punter had to feel like a ground ball to him, and it was on the dirt. So he picks it up. He gets dropped again. Tipton turns it into another touchdown. So you're 21-0 still in the first quarter. That was just the kind of night it was. Central Catholic passed the ball, oh my gosh, over 40 times. Almost every play was a pass. And Tipton's secondary was probably the best they've played all year, Greg. Just in not just coverage, but they were there. Open field tackling, and the way they broke down to tackle was stellar tonight. I mean, Tipton finished off tackles. It was real rare for Central Catholic to get any kind of major yardage post the first hit. But yeah, Tipton looked pretty good. Their offense still in the red zone, still needs tuned up. Coach Tolle, you heard him comment about that, and that's something that they really need to get fine-tuned before the tournament rolls around in a couple weeks. But yeah, Central Catholic this is not the same Central Catholic team that they've been. I talked to somebody from Central Catholic through the game a little bit, and this person thinks it might be 2 years before they're really back to being super kind of what they've been in the past. But I will say this, Central Catholic, part of the reason the score was like that is after those two bad snuffs on the punt, they never punted again. They went for it every time on fourth down with their quarterback. And so Tipton stopped them usually, or they intercepted Dakota Garmon had another interception. Zach Emberton had an interception tonight. It was senior night. The seniors played really well. Isaiah Mahaney had a terrific game in the secondary. He also scored a touchdown and had a nice big pass reception. He had more than one pass reception, but a long one. So did Dakota Garmon. Tipton just looked very good tonight. It was what they needed coming off the 3-game road trip where they lost 2 of the 3. School their size and something that they need to prepare because they're going to go to Hamilton Heights and face a very good Hamilton Heights team, and Coach Tolle knows that. The one thing is he does believe, and he's probably accurate, they'll have their teams focused this week because that's a rivalry. Actually, that most people just call Hamilton Heights that orange team to the south, and it's become, I think, Hamilton Heights has become Tipton's biggest rival over Elwood on the football schedule and over Tri-Central in basketball. So, but yeah, great win by the Blue Devils. Looked good tonight in all phases of the game.
Before we get to Grant, I was just looking at scores while Michelle was talking just around the state. If there's ever been a higher scoring night in Indiana high school football history, I would be surprised. Every game, the winners in the 50s, high 40s, 50s, 60s. We had 90s. We had a team score 91, 98, 96, 92, Union County 92, Cambridge City 6, West Central 72, Faith Christian 14. This is just at the bottom of the list here. Southridge scored 63. Shenandoah scored 50, West Dell 58, Rochester 51,
Well, Lawrence
Providence
North scored
51,
63.
Rensselaer. Crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
yeah.
And
And most of the Lawrence North
crazy
came in the
night
second
of
half.
Knightstown 61, Tri 59 in overtime. Centerville 63, and as we mentioned, Cascade scored 98 tonight. Crazy. Let's talk about the CIC. Grant and Kevin Helfrich of the Action Sports Network had Mississinawa's 48-0 win over Elwood. Also in the CIC in the Central Indiana Sports Report game of the night, it was Eastbrook 31, Madison Grant 26, setting up Eastbrook and Mississinawa next week for the CIC championship.
The conference is really competitive this year. I think it's really going to come down to the last week of the year. And I'll be honest with you, I'll put this statement out there. I'm not so sure there will be an outright champion. I could see it ending in a tie between Eastbrook and Mississinawa, or I could see that happening. Would not be shocked. Next week is really going to be a big indicator because next week will determine who's outright in first place, if it's Eastbrook or Mississinawa. And then
yeah, they both have really tough Week 9 games. Eastbrook against Oak Hill, Mississinawa against Madison Grant. So either team wins, there's no guarantee they're going to win the following week.
No, you're right. There is no guarantee. It just gives them a nice leg up in the conference to where they do control their own destiny. That's a big game. It's for the conference championship, and you've got two teams in Mississinawa and Eastbrook next Friday that really believe they are capable of winning a sectional, and so they don't want to slip up and play poorly and kill the momentum that they've got building into it. So it's going to be a big game. It is going to be a big game. The week after is going to be curious just because sometimes you can have a letdown especially if next week's game is a dogfight, very a physical game that's a one possession game. So
I wanted to mention also next week in the CIC of Alexandria and Madison Grant should be a really good one. And Frankton 0-7, probably going to get its first win. We are joined on the Riverside app by Will Willems of the Lebanon Reporter. We will get to Will and talk some Boone County football here before long, but let's finish our conversation about the CIC. It kind of played out exactly how we saw it. 5 really good teams. There were going to be a lot of good games. And Madison Grant, Michelle, I wanted to tell you today in the hallways, I ran into OJ Blackwell, and I said, I've been hearing a lot of this. Maybe Madison Grant's done because their quarterback got hurt, but this might be a good thing for Madison Grant in the long run. And he was incredible today and gave Madison Grant a chance to win that game. And it's probably the best offensive performance in a few weeks.
Yeah, and they've needed someone to step up in that role like Blackwell has. And I think that's a really good find for Coach Turner and them. Put him in a role. I mean, he wasn't a quarterback to begin the year. He's a running back. And you put him back there at the controls of the offense. And what the good thing is about Madison Grant is how good their staff is and how great of a coach Coach Turner is that they're able to work with that kind of situation where, you lose your quarterback and then you got to basically throw someone into a role that they're not familiar with playing, and they step up and they play well. So that's really big. But, talking about, the CIC race here, really, you can really see the separation between the top 5 teams with minus Blackford, Elwood, and Frankton, and the 5 teams above them are all just kind of right there throwing punches, all that kind of stuff. Oak Hill is eliminated from the race. They already have 2 losses in the conference.
yeah,
You talk about the scenario where Mississinawa loses next Friday and then loses again to Madison Grant. Well, Eastbrook could beat Mississinawa and then lose to Oak Hill, and Eastbrook could still be the outright champion if that's the case. So there's so many scenarios we're going to look at going into week 9, and we're going to hammer it all week that week and probably next week as well. But just like we said, they all control their own destiny.
But what we know for sure is that the winner between Eastbrook and Mrs. Cinewall will have at least a share of the CIC championship.
Yes, they will. Grant gave a shout out to Brady Turner, and he's done a wonderful job. But I also want to give a shout out to his assistant Massey, who has done an incredible job at Madison Grant in the weight, because he runs that weight program, and that's a big key to them, their success, their strength up front, and he does that defense, and he's done a really wonderful job. I think he and Brady make a great tandem.
And speaking of conference championships, I don't know how much it really means when you have 4 teams in a conference, as we're going to mention here with Will and the Lebanon Tigers, but Tipton clinched a share of the small school division of the Hoosier Conference. It's something.
It is something. It's something for those kids to celebrate a little bit, maybe give them just a little bit of confidence heading into the postseason, because they should definitely win that. I would be very shocked, very disappointed, and I think Coach Tolle and staff would probably be very upset if Tipton made the trip to Benton Central in 2 weeks and came home having lost.
Better win that one.
I believe so.
Speaking of conference championships, Will, the Lebanon Tigers clinched a share of the now tiny Sagamore, which won't be so tiny next year, but with a win over Danville tonight, their first win at Danville in a decade, their 6th straight win. Really big win for the Tigers tonight, Will.
Yeah, it was a really good win for them, and it's kind of weird in the Sagamore this year with only 4 teams, and 2 of them aren't playing each other this year. So Lebanon and McCutcheon are the only 2 that are playing all 3 other schools. But Lebanon's 2-0 now in the conference. Longtime foe with Danville. They've been in the conference together now for 25 years, and the Warriors have won their fair share of these battles recently. But this Lebanon team's kind of different than some Lebanon teams in the past. They're finding ways to win really close games, and they did it again. It was tied 28 all early in the 4th quarter. Lebanon kicked a 32-yard field goal to go up by 3, 31-28. On the ensuing drive, Danville went for it on 4th and 3 right near midfield and got stuffed, and Lebanon went 50 yards down and scored to go up 10, and then Danville added a late touchdown with about 2 minutes left, and Lebanon was able to run out the clock after that with a couple of big first downs. But really good back and forth game. That's the way that Lebanon-Danville rivalry has been going the last few years. But yeah, Lebanon at six wins in a row now, and they're rolling as they get to the stretch run of the season here.
And next week will be 7 straight. They go to Terre Haute North. They're absolutely awful, but will be a member of the Sagamore Conference next year. But that Harrison team's dangerous.
I was talking with Coach Josh Yoder after the game today, and obviously they're not looking past anybody. It's a long bus trip to Terre Haute for them, and so things can get a little tricky with that. They are definitely the favorite on paper, but yeah, he knows that Harrison game, it could be a real doozy the last week of the year, and will kind of give the Tigers a really good idea of where they are heading into sectional play the week after. Should be a good game. The first time I think that Lebanon and Harrison will ever have met in football, and it's that should be a really good one.
That should be a really nice conference, although it's going to be a long travel.
Thankfully, that drive to Lebanon, from Lebanon to Harrison or to McCutcheon, isn't too terribly bad. It's pretty much a straight shot right up 65, but there is no easy way to get to Terre Haute from Lebanon. So it's
well, how about Terre Haute to Lafayette, man?
Yeah, that's also not going to be a fun trip. I think they've kind of have tried to do some things with the conference scheduling to limit how much each team has to travel that long distance. I think Harrison's only going to have to go to one Terre Haute every year for football and basketball, and the other one will have to come up there
That
and
makes sense. And
doing some double headers with soccer and tennis and some other things to maximize travel. But yeah, it's unfortunately the way that conference realignment has kind of been going. It's really hard to get schools of similar size and talent ability to kind of band together. And some schools are very happy with where they are and don't want things ruffled, and other things are breaking apart. So have to be a little creative with the way you build conferences, and that's what the Sagamores kind of run into after the 5 schools left this year to create the Monon with Greencastle, North Putnam, and Cascade.
yeah, Michelle and I need to do a conference realignment podcast very soon, probably in the next week, with the big news that came out this week of a new conference. Can't remember what it's going to be called. I should have been prepared, but it's over in our area, Delta and Shenandoah. Some schools like that are going to be part of it. A lot of realignment because, as always happens, populations migrate.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things that really, with travel and some of the school size, Lebanon and Danville in particular are growing pretty quickly, and the Montgomery County schools weren't really growing as fast. And Western Boone was kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place, trying to figure out which way to go, and looked like the Monon was a little more stabilized, and they fit a lot better in most sports, and with those other teams leaving. And it's kind of tough. The Stagmore had been such a stable conference for a really long time. The Montgomery County schools, Lebanon, Western Boone, and Frankfort had been together since the mid-'80s. Danville and Tri-West joined in, I think, 98 or 2000, somewhere around there when they declared and then were official and things like that. So it had been almost 2 decades. They had been pretty stable. Like you said, change is happening. There's different population growth happening all over the place, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, Greg, that conference, you were the new one, Eastern Crossroads.
That won't be confusing at all.
Yeah.
Jeez. We got the Hoosier Heritage, the Hoosier Conference, the Hoosier Crossroads, the Eastern Crossroads, the Eastern Conference. Now it's even going to be more confusing. At least Monon and Sagamore are easy to remember.
Yeah.
And of course, the Central Indiana Conference named itself after this podcast, so I can't forget the name of that one.
Absolutely.
But guys, we need a new plan for football. We need to get rid of conferences. We just need to. Football is different than every other sport. We just need to admit it. We need to get rid of conferences and just make sections with like-sized schools to go into a playoff and not have to have every team in the playoff. Let's fix this now that everybody's changing conferences.
Yeah, there's definitely been some lopsided scores. I'm assuming you guys saw the Cascade Greencastle score from tonight, which was a little eye-opening to say the least.
Right before you popped on here, Will, I was going through all the scores around the state. There were 3 games in the 90s. There were lots of games in the 80s and 70s. I can't imagine there's ever been a higher scoring night than there was. I think there was a 77-70 game and a 71-69 game and 58-50.
I was talking to some people who had been watching the Cascade game, and they said it was 77-7 at halftime, but they had really been running the ball since like early in the second quarter, but I don't know what exactly happened there, because even with running the ball with a running clock, scoring 21 points in the third quarter is like kind of crazy. That like the running clock, you should be able to take off a couple of minutes just playing, but yeah,
crazy.
That's 98's a very large number. So,
well, let's move to the Monon then and talk about Western Boone's 26-23 loss to Southmont. Really good performance. Western Boone's playing really well.
A tough one for Western Boone tonight. They just really talking to Coach Justin Pelly on the phone after that, and had watched some of their game on YouTube before hopping on here. Just couldn't find anything really consistently on offense today. They had been rolling pretty well. They actually scored a touchdown on the first play from scrimmage on a 61-yard touchdown pass to go up 7-0. Then really just struggled to really put together any drives whatsoever. Found themselves down 9 late in the fourth quarter. Got a 95-yard kickoff return from Malachi Christie and then a 4 and out on defense after they didn't get an onside kick to give themselves a chance. Were able to get down to about the Southmont 15-yard line, and then an interception with looked like, watching the video, could have been called a pass interference. The receiver going across the middle kind of got cleaned up before the ball was even thrown, but didn't get called. Southmont got the interception. Were able to kneel the game out. Yeah, so Western Boone had been rolling 4-0 in the Monon heading into today. Today was a little bit step back, but hopefully for them, they got North Putt and Cascade coming up, so they can find a way to get a couple of wins. They'll put themselves in a chance to probably share a conference title.
All right, let's talk about Zionsville. The final scores aren't going to show it, 38-6 and 27-3. But the way they hung with Westfield and Brownsburg, at least early in games, into the second half, has to give them some hope going into the postseason.
Yeah, the Westfield game early on was a little weird. They had some injuries to some key guys in that first half. Were winning 3-0 at halftime, and then the third quarter just didn't go their way, and I think it was 21-3 after the third quarter, and just kind of got away from a little bit. Today, talking to my writer, my stringer who was out there, great first half for Zionsville. They had 2 really long drives and didn't get touchdowns, but were able to cap them off with field goals. We're only down 7-6 in the final seconds of the first half, that then gave up a touchdown pass with 4 seconds left in the half to go down 14-6. Brownsburg got the second half kickoff, went down and had a pretty nice drive and went up 21-6, and it was kind of, they got into a rhythm then. And Zionsville, they're not really built as a team to be able to come back from big deficits. They're more of a kind of a wanting to control get tempo and things like that. So when they get up a couple of scores, and they're tough and they're just an elite team anyway. So whenever you kind of give them any little inch, they're going to take it.
Apparently, we've lost Michelle. She has an early morning. She said at some point she was going to drop off as the reason that we started with Tipton tonight rather than our game of the week, Madison Grant Eastbrook. And a reminder, Eastbrook 31-26 over Madison Grant was a really good game. Western Boone is in a sectional with Southmont and Seeger, but they're going to have a chance to win that sectional for sure.
Yeah, things didn't go their way today. I mean, offensively, their passing game really didn't get going. I think at one point looking at my notes here, I think they had like 9 or 10 straight incompletions, which is never ideal when you're trying to move the ball offensively, and just really couldn't get much of their rushing attack going. I mean, it was going here and there, just not consistently. Talking to Coach Pelly after the game about potentially seeing them again in the sectional, he felt like they got some good things from the game, that if they were to meet again, a few adjustments and they would have a good chance of pulling it out. It just today wasn't their night.
And we already mentioned last week, Lebanon sectional, they probably go in as the favorite, right?
Obviously, Logansport has a really nice record. I'm not sure if they've quite played the schedule that Lebanon has.
I'm sure that they haven't.
Yeah. And the one thing that I think could help Lebanon in that sectional, especially because there is a potential for a lot of really long bus trips throughout that sectional, the way it's all spread out. But Lebanon, they've kind of been the road warriors. They've had to drive to Marion. They've had to go to Triton Central. They're going to have to go to Terre Haute next week. Those are some really long bus trips that they've kind of learned what they have to do to make sure that they're ready to go once they get to wherever they're going to go play. So if they were to draw a Huntington North or a Culver Academy in that sectional, I think they're going to be ready and know how to at least handle the travel aspect of things.
Huntington North could be dangerous in that sectional as well. They're 2-5, but they played a tough schedule, and they're definitely decent and could beat a good team on a good night. Of course, Lebanon has memories of Huntington North.
If there's one team they would probably not overlook in that sectional, it would be Huntington North after losing in the sectional final last year in a really good overtime game. Lebanon, it's been a long time since they've had kind of back-to-back years where they've been able to rack up some wins like that. They haven't had a sectional title since 1997. That was their only one in school history. So they're still kind of sticking with that one game at a time mindset and not looking ahead. But I think when you really start to kind of break down and look at things, they have a really good chance to do something pretty cool later this fall.
Did you know that in that Class 3A sectional that Lebanon won in 1997, they beat Zionsville?
I believe it was like a missed extra point for Zionsville at one point that gave Lebanon the win with future NFL player Craig Terrell on the Lebanon Tigers that year, who was at the game today watching his nephew and got to say hi to him. So it's always a good thing when the Terrell clan's out there.
Very cool. Elwood played Zionsville in a state championship in 1987. So Zionsville was in a conference with Sheridan and Clinton Prairie.
Yep, the good old range line conference. Maybe someone should bring that back as a conference name, and with at least it's a little more creative than whatever combination of Indiana, Crossroads, and Direction that we can come up
Directions,
with.
That's right. That's all we've got. Or don't forget Hoosier.
Yeah, or Hoosier. So,
I think half of the conferences have Hoosier in the name.
That's the one thing I appreciate with the Monon when they created it. They actually thought about a conference name a little bit. The Monon has meaning to all those kind of communities, as does their logo, trying to incorporate the old Monon train tracks in there and things like that. So that is pretty cool.
All right, Will Willems, thanks for staying up late with me tonight. Tell everyone how they can read your coverage and what you got coming up.
I'm on X at Will_Willems. Our website is reporter.net. We will be posting stories from tonight here shortly. Had a cool feature that's going to run tomorrow on former Lebanon quarterback Isaac Harker, who played 3 years in the CFL and in the Arena Football League, and was most recently the stunt double for Glenn Powell in the Chad Powers television show.
Wow.
So got to catch up with Isaac this week and kind of talk about that experience. And then this weekend's going to be a lot of high school state golf stuff. I'm going to do another follow-up on Western Boone Junior Allie Lewis, who is the first Western Boone Lady Star ever to qualify for the state finals in golf. Had a pretty good day one for her and is hoping for better in day two. So that will run this weekend.
Will Willems, thanks so much. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Michelle and I will be back on Thursday to preview all of the Week 8 games. Probably have Grant Shouse with us, maybe another guest. And we'll be back Friday night for our Week 8 scoreboard in 2 different parts. Part 1 will be as close to midnight as we can possibly get with all the scores and highlights. Part 2 will be our discussion after everything is over, and we will talk to media and coaches, and it'll be my first night of fall break, so exciting weekend.
Great. No!
Yes.
No!
The Central Indiana Sports Report is brought to you by Teaching Media, and I love Susie. I'm running with it.
Dang it!